Hello. Welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. Hello. Hi. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our morning meeting. Hello. When you come on in, let me know that you're here. Leave your name and where you're from, and I'll be happy to give you guys a shout out. We're here with Perry this morning. Hi, Perry Pants. Good morning. So come on in and we'll chat about Perry. He's got his breakfast, so he's going to be eating while we're talking. And it shouldn't get too gross, but he's going to be enjoying his breakfast. And as always, Perry's a little flappier than some of our other ambassadors. So he may flap his wings, he might jump, he might talk. He likes to make a lot of sound when he's eating. So yeah, but he's got his breakfast in his talons. Nice job. Perry is our peregrine falcon ambassador. He has been with us for, he has been with us for 8 years now. 7, 8 years now. And he originally came to us from the Vermont Institute of Natural Sciences. They helped us to acquire him. Hi. I know. He was originally found in Vermont and was found after he had flown into a power transformer and had sustained some pretty significant electrical burns and neurological damage. So he is not able to go back out into the wild. This whole side of his body that's facing you guys is pretty irreparably damaged. He has a lot of issues with his nerves in that area, so he's not really able to move his wings and his feathers properly. He also has some issues with that foot and that eye, so he has a lot of like muscular issues as well as nerve damage that prevents him from being able to fly properly. These guys need to be really just excellent flyers, and I know, and in the wild they would normally be the fastest animals on the planet, so they have to be in tip-top shape. All of their feathers need to be perfect. I know, Perry. And their movements have to be very precise and perfect as well. So Perry can't go back out into the wild because he would not fit that bill, but he lives with us here, and he is an absolutely fantastic ambassador. You can see him looking all around. They're very attuned to their surroundings, so they have excellent vision, excellent hearing. So he's looking all around, seeing what's around us. He's settling in. He's not as interested in his breakfast, but he will be in a minute, I'm sure. Good morning, Stephen from Nashua. Hello, good morning. Hi. And every time he like fluffs up like that and then shakes it out, that's him like expending all that nervous energy or that excited energy. So he's like shaking it out. He gets a shiver. It's called a roust, and it's usually a good thing. It's usually a sign that an animal is calm and kind of calming down, so you can see he's chilling out a little bit. When he tilts his head up at the sky, he's looking for things up in the air. So usually these guys are looking for like other predators, other birds that are flying up in the sky, and they tilt their head to see that. I know, where are you going? Yeah, and they can see very, very well. They can see up to 2 miles away. They've done amazing research with these birds because they're very, very commonly used in falconry, and so they have a lot of falcons that are very well trained to indicate and do certain behaviors. So they have done a lot of studies on these birds. Well, you worked yourself up. Yeah, so he's opening his mouth. It's kind of like panting. I know. Where are you going? Yeah. Good morning, Tiffany. Hello. Tiffany says hello. Yeah. Do you want to eat your breakfast? Do you want to eat your breakfast? He's like, no, I'm too excited to eat my breakfast. Good morning, Katie. Hello. Good morning. We have Perry with us this morning. He's our peregrine falcon ambassador. So Perry is he is probably somewhere around 7 or 8 years old. That's how long we've had him, and he did come into us as an adult bird. So so he is an older bird, and in captivity they can live well beyond 10. They've been known to live into their 20s in captivity. If there's other health issues going on that might not always be possible. We had Freya with us, our female peregrine falcon, for 14 years, but she had ovarian cancer and passed away. Perry could be with us for easily another decade, and he's very, very sweet. We love this guy. He loves to sit right in the front of his enclosure and kind of watch everything that's going on. He loves to interact with the public. Hi. Where are you going? You're so flappy. Come here. Eat your food. Eat your breakfast. What's that? So he's got a chicken wing, kind of the leg of like a little chick today, for his breakfast. So he's usually really excited about eating his birds, because that is what they would normally eat in the wild. They are bird eaters. So I know. So they hunt for and catch other birds, and they usually do this on the wing. They usually do this flying. So they're flying, the other bird is flying. They are able to pass that other bird and chase it down and catch it right out of the air. So they have to be super, super fast, and they are. They have been clocked going upwards of 300 miles per hour, and that's the fastest that any animal on the planet has ever been recorded moving. So they are really amazing flyers. So Kira, I am not sure. I was not here at the time. When I got here about 6 years ago, he was pretty well used to being on the glove. He was even more kind of anxious than he is now, and he had a hard time settling down. And then he also would not come to the glove. So something that we've trained Perry to do is to step up and to come down to the glove. Usually we do that with food. So they come to one place, a little platform in their enclosure every day to get their food, and then if we go there and put down food and have our glove on, then they step up. So that's something that I taught Perry when I got here, and that was probably around 5 years ago. And getting him to eat on the glove took a long time to train. We would have entire like half-hour lunch breaks together every day, because he would be eating on the glove, and that was a great way to build up our relationship. So that happened when I got here, but before that he was somewhat comfortable on the glove. The previous education staff had worked with him to get him comfortable doing that. So I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but it's a long process, you know, and we are very adamant about using positive reinforcement here at the center. So we don't hood the birds, we don't do any sort of like, I know. We try to make everything very positive for them and a positive experience. So tying him with me, him on the glove with food, is really great. Pairing a behavior, something that makes him a little bit more nervous, with something that he likes, is a good strategy to get them more used to things. So we try to use a lot of positive reinforcement tactics here, and they seem to work pretty well. So Perry's still very you know, more high-strung than a lot of our other ambassadors, like our owls, but that's kind of a part of his nature. He is a peregrine falcon, so they are very fast birds. They are very good hunters and predators. They're always on the lookout. Their senses are really incredible, so their sensory overload, I can only imagine, a lot of times must be overwhelming. So so they just have a lot to look at and hear, and that can lead to, you can see he's looking around at everything in our area. I know. So that's just kind of part of his nature, is that he's a little bit more high-strung. There are people that are more high-strung than people that are less high-strung. So he is his own unique individual, and we love that about our ambassadors. And we just make sure to, you know, tailor the sorts of programs he goes on to his attitude. So if we're going to a big, busy public event, which obviously we're not doing anymore, but back in the day, back in the before times, we would make sure that we brought animals that were suited to that environment. So if we're going to someplace quieter, where we know that the audience is going to be sitting and controlled, then we could bring Perry or Leo or any of our more nervous or more anxious or high-strung ambassadors. If we're going to a kid's birthday party where it's going to be hectic and crazy, we'll bring Lucy, we'll bring Fern, we'll bring the Henry, you know, the guys that we know are a little bit better suited to that, a little bit calmer. So we just try to cater our ambassador choice to the program that we're going on. And that's why we always tell folks, we're like, we can't guarantee who's going to come to your event, because it could just be someone's having a bad day and doesn't want to go. I know. Well, now you've worked yourself all up. Good morning, Kim. Hello. So we are here with Perry, our peregrine falcon ambassador. You should eat your breakfast. I know you've got some yummy chicken leg right there. It's like I'm too distracted to eat my breakfast. I know, so many noises. So Perry's our male peregrine falcon ambassador. He has been with us for about 7 or 8 years, and he is one of our beautiful raptor ambassadors here at the center. Peregrine falcons are just one of many, many different types of falcons. We have 2 falcons, I know, at the center, 2 members of the falcon family. We have Perry, and then they're kind of the more famous falcon, and then we have Maeve, who is a tiny little Merlin falcon. Merlin is the name, and then they are in the falco family, or genus, so they're a falcon. But then we also have kestrels in our area, and then if you go up even farther north, you'll find gear falcons, which are like big versions of Perry. And these are birds that are really famously used in the falconry world. So they're used in sporting for falconry. People will they'll catch wild falcons and they'll train them to do different things, and it's a big part of a lot of indigenous cultures, especially in Eastern, in Asia. Hi! Especially like Kazakhstan, that region. Falconry is a big part of their heritage. So it's a very interesting concept, and the training involved is just intense. They go through a lot of training with these wild birds. So none of our birds here at the center are used for falconry. They couldn't really do all of the things that falconry birds need to be able to do, like fly and catch things. So that if they could, they would be released back out into the wild, and all of our birds here are disabled in some way that wouldn't make them suitable to be in the wild anymore. So Perry here can't really fly very well. He falls to the ground, so he can get up. Hello! Hi, Elaine. Hello. Hi, Travis. Hello, Jennifer. He is so beautiful. So he is able to get up into his enclosure. He has ramps throughout his enclosure, and he can kind of controlled, like, launch himself down from the top of his enclosure, but he is not able to get up off the ground. Once he's on the ground, he has to find like a step or a ladder or something. So he can't really go out into the wild. We did have Freya for many years, who proved us wrong when we would tell people that she couldn't find her own food and hunt for her own food. One time we had her out on a walk, and we were walking, and a little mole ran by, and she jumped off the glove and pounced on the mole and killed it and ate it, and was so proud of herself. So the instincts are still there for them to hunt. I'm not sure if Perry would ever do that, but Freya was a pretty fierce lady. Perry is a male peregrine falcon, and they tend to be a good deal smaller than the females. So Freya, when we had her, I know. She was about twice as big as Perry, and Perry is not not that small of a bird. She was a big bird. That is pretty normal among raptors. Usually the females tend to be larger, and the males tend to be smaller and more light, because they are the ones that are usually hunting, doing most of the hunting. They need to be really energy efficient, so that when they're flying, when they're hunting, they're not expending a bunch of energy, trying to keep extra weight up in the air. So they tend to be really light and lean and very agile and quick. They do most of the hunting, while the female sits on the nest and defends the nest. So she's in charge of keeping babies safe and keeping her nest safe from predators. So she needs to be big and tough and scary looking. I know. And that means that they usually carry a lot more muscle, and they are usually bigger. So in some birds, like peregrine falcons, it's really drastic, and the females can be, 2/3 larger than the males. In some birds, it's really slight. You can't really tell unless you weigh the bird, and even then, it's kind of a guess. So like in screech owls, it's usually a difference of like maybe 25-30 grams, so it can be pretty tricky. Hi Naomi, good morning. So sometimes it's really drastic, sometimes it's not. If you've ever seen Byron and Fern next to each other, our barred owl ambassadors, you can tell Fern is a girl because she's quite a bit larger, and she also weighs quite a bit more. If you guys are seeing Perry open his mouth, this is his version of panting. He's not necessarily overly hot. It is pretty cool here today, but he's been flapping so much he's made a bunch of body heat, and he's got to expend it somehow. Birds don't really sweat like humans, so similar to the way that dogs pant, these guys will open their mouths to release that extra hot air, and then they'll breathe in the cool air, and that will help to cool them down and regulate their body temperature. So I know. And now he's worn himself out, and he'll sit very nicely. But usually for the first 10-15 minutes of being out and about, he's a little bit flappy. He's a little bit flappy, but he's so sweet. And he really loves to interact with people from the safety of his enclosure. So something that we like to offer all of our ambassadors here is their enclosures all have some sort of an area where they can go to get away from the view of people. This is really important for maintaining their mental health in captivity, because if you're constantly getting viewed or could constantly be viewed, it can lead to a lot of stress. So all of our ambassadors have these areas where they can go when they choose to get out of the view of people. And what's interesting is a lot of them make the decision when they see people to go and interact with them because they know that they have a choice. So Perry will sit right in the front viewing window of his enclosure where you can see him, and he can see the door to our medical clinic, so he can see us come out with his food in the morning. He gets very excited and flaps at us the whole way. But he loves to interact with people. He'll sit in the window, he'll bow to people. This is something that peregrines do in the wild to each other naturally, so he's learned to bow to his handlers. They'll do a little head bow. Yeah, so we'll do little bowing games. They love hide and seek. They will like follow us back and forth. They're really interactive and sweet. All of our ambassadors are really excited when they see people because they have that choice of getting out of the view of public. There are some that are not super thrilled, but then there are others like Bertram or Perry or Henry who will come right to the front because they love people. Hello, Chuck. Hello, good morning. So Perry is our peregrine falcon ambassador. For those of you who are just joining us, peregrines are a really famous falcon species because of their incredible story. Yeah. So peregrines were, I know, they were on the endangered species list until 1999. Yes, thank you. I got karate chopped. That happens, yeah. They were on the endangered species list from the 60s until 1999, and that was due largely to the use of pesticides. Good morning, Priscilla. Hello. Largely due to the use of pesticides from agricultural operations using pesticides like DDT. And Rachel Carson famously wrote about this and testified about the use of pesticides in her book Silent Spring, and this caused the entire environmental movement, or it was a result of the brewings of it, and led to the founding of the EPA and the Endangered Species Act that protected birds like Perry. So DDT was banned. These guys were very closely monitored and protected for decades, and that really intensive protection led to them bouncing back, coming back from that brink of extinction, and doing amazingly well now. So well that they were taken off of the federal endangered species list in 1999, and they have been consistently removed from state endangered species lists since then. So gradually since then, just depending on populations. So a big part of this was that there were no more pesticides, or there were fewer pesticides in the environment that were causing peregrine falcons to have a really hard time at laying eggs and keeping a brood alive. They did much better. They had much better success rates at that. And then they also helped us, and they adapted to human settlement and to human behaviors. This is a big thing that often we overlook in these extinction stories, is the animals that come back, the animals that do well, tend to have to adapt in some way to human development, to human activity. So the way that peregrines did this was they adapted to live in our cities, and in the wild they would normally occupy. Hi, yes, they would normally occupy very large mountain ranges or cliffs. They would live up someplace really high where they can see and get a good view of all the birds that are flying around that are their potential prey. And then they will dive down from that cliff or mountaintop to catch those birds. So that's their preferred habitat, someplace rocky, like a cliff or a mountaintop. And in our cities, we have structures that closely mimic their wild preferred habitat. So a skyscraper or a bridge or the top of the roof of a building are really ideal places. A window ledge are ideal places for a peregrine falcon to roost, and there are usually plenty of birds in our cities in the form of pigeons, house sparrows, things like that for these guys to eat. So they adapted really well to living in cities. Many birds have done this. So peregrines are not the only ones that have figured this out, but that caused them to have more places to nest, more places to roost, and that helped them to survive. So we have roosting peregrine falcons in Portsmouth, in Rye. There are famously some that nest up in Acadia National Park on the peregrine cliffs, and they have to shut down the trails every summer for the nesting peregrines. And then we also, I'm not sure about this year, they might not be there this year because of all the construction work that's being done, but for the last 5 years or so, there has been a nest, peregrine nest that's up under the 95 bridge as you cross over into Maine from Portsmouth, and they will nest up under the bridge and then roost up on top of the bridge. So sometimes when you cross over the bridge into New Hampshire, you can see them perched up looking at the river for food, the Piscataqua River. It's really cool. But they are doing much better now. We have them living in a lot of our major cities throughout the eastern seaboard, so they do very well. They are found all over the world. They're not just native to the United States. They are found all over the world. The word peregrine is translated from ancient Latin, I think, and it just means wanderer. So they are found throughout the world on every continent except Antarctica, and they will migrate from northern latitudes to southern ones every year. And on that migration, they do still encounter a lot of those pesticides that are not banned in other countries. For example, in South America, some countries still allow the use of DDT. So they are still encountering those pesticides that can cause really harmful effects to their eggs, to their nests. But at least here, where they spend the majority of their time, they are not exposed to that chemical. And some of them do make the energetic kind of assessment to stay in North America for the winters. It has been getting more temperate during the winter here, so some of them are still able to find food all winter long and still able to survive. So usually the more northern ones will migrate south, and then the more mid-latitude ones will stay put and stay where they are. Good job, Perry. You did not eat your breakfast, but that's okay. If anyone has any questions about peregrines, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. He's finally settled down. So we're content to sit and answer your questions as long as you have them. And as always, there is a donation button on all of our videos, and we really, really appreciate you donating to the Center for Wildlife. We are really, really excited. Kara has a really interesting question. So Kara asks, do your ambassadors' behaviors change at all as the weather changes in the fall and winter? Yes, very much so. During the fall, when it starts to get cool, and we're actually experiencing this now, a lot of our ambassadors start to think that they are going to starve. They get colder at night, they are burning more energy, they get a lot more hungry. We notice, we bump up their food in the winter so that they have enough energy, but our red-tailed hawk Scarlet, for example, has recently tried to convince us that she's starving. So she has been a lot more food motivated in the last week or so since it started getting cooler at night. The peregrines always do this. Maeve does this like a pro. Maeve gets very, very excited about her food once it starts to get a little bit colder. So Absolutely. They definitely change. The raptors definitely get a lot more kind of antsy and hungry and food motivated. Henry usually slows down a little bit. He might get a little bit more like cuddly or sleepy or anything like that. Skeeter the same. Ophelia not so much. She doesn't really change. She mostly sleeps all the time anyway, so she might just come out of her nest bed area less. The bats that we have inside do change quite a bit with the temperatures, so they are very their body, their metabolism is really closely linked to the temperature. So when it gets colder, they will kind of start to go into torpor more and more. And then the reptiles are cold-blooded, so their activity is strictly based on what temperature it is. So we only put the turtles out when it's above 60 degrees so that they never get that kind of really low temperature. But if it does get chillier in the afternoon or in the morning, they will actually bury themselves under the dirt, under the wood chips in their enclosures in an attempt to kind of get down to the earth where it's a little bit warmer. So everybody, all of our ambassadors, change their behaviors when it starts to get a little colder. And then they also, in the spring, when it starts to warm up, they get really happy and excited, and they start bathing, and they start doing all sorts of fun springtime things. So absolutely, everybody has some sort of way of coping with the cold here. And one of the biggest things that animals have to deal with in the winter is just a lack of food availability. So a lot of their changes in the wild have to do with that. And because these guys are still consistently fed, you know, some of those behaviors aren't necessarily there. So we've noticed that like our red tails in the wild here, if they're able to find plenty of roadkill to eat in the winter, a lot of them don't migrate. A lot of them stay here if they're able to find food. So some of those behaviors that you would normally see, like migration, don't happen in our wild animals here if they're able to find enough food and get through the winter. So it's really interesting. Nice job. Good boy. If anyone has any other questions about Perry, please let me know. Hi. Once again, the fastest animals on the planet, and he's very intent on showing you guys that. I know. So we're gonna go give him the rest of his breakfast. Yeah. Yeah, we're so excited. But if anyone has any last questions, please let me know, and I will be happy to answer them here. And then, as always, there's a donation button on all of our videos, and we really appreciate your donations. It goes a long way to help support our work and support the care of these guys. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Sarah will be back tomorrow with another one of our ambassador friends. And we are very excited to announce that Open House, the last session, is completely sold out. So the first two sessions still have tickets available. So if you want to come to Open House, go to the page that we have for the event for it on Facebook and sign up before those tickets are sold out, because they are going quickly. I think we've sold about 2/3 of our tickets. So really exciting. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Thanks, guys.